All right, everyone, welcome. So last week, we really laid out the theoretical map of Max Scheller's value ethics. Today, we're going to put on our hiking boots, so to speak. We're moving from the theory to the practice, from just memorizing that map to actually getting out and exploring the landscape for ourselves.
Okay, so this brings us to our central question for today. We've got Scheller's hierarchy of values, right? But how do we know it's not just some arbitrary system he cooked up and imposed on reality? You see, the real challenge, and frankly the beauty of his philosophy, is his claim that we can actually perceive this order in our own experience. So how do we do that? How can we actually test this for ourselves?
Now, before we jump in and get our hands dirty, we need to reestablish our coordinates. So let's just do a quick recap of the value ranks we covered last time before we dive into the method for actually seeing them. And here it is, the Rangordnung, the order of ranks. As you'll remember, it starts at the bottom with sensory values, things like pleasure and pain. Then it moves up through vital values like health and nobility. Then up again to the spiritual values of truth, beauty, and justice. And it all culminates in the highest rank, the value of the holy. Now our job today isn't to just accept this list, but to find a way to see the logic of it from the inside out.
And this, of course, is our main tool. You know from your work on Husserl that phenomenology isn't about explaining away or finding causes, it's all about disciplined description. We are going to carefully, and I mean carefully, describe what is given to us exactly as it's given in different value experiences. This is the absolute key that unlocks the whole thing.
All right, let's begin with our first exercise. We're going to put two very different types of values head-to-head, sensory values on one side and spiritual values on the other. And what you'll see is that this contrast reveals a really fundamental structural difference between them. So let's get really concrete here. I want you to think about the simple, immediate experience of tasting something sweet, say a piece of chocolate. Now, don't think about the chemistry or the calories, just phenomenologically. What are the essential features of the experience itself?
Well, the first thing we notice is that the feeling is somewhere, right? Merleau-Ponty would really emphasize this. It's not some abstract thought, it's an experience of the lived body, the Leib. The sweetness is localized right there on your tongue. It has physical extension, it's spread across a surface. It's just like when your foot hurts. The pain isn't floating around in your mind, it is in your foot. The value is tied to a specific physical place.
Okay, so what does this essential feature, this physical extension, what does it mean for sharing this value? If you and I both want to experience the value of this piece of chocolate, what do we have to do? Well, we have to physically divide its bearer. I have to break off a piece and give it to you. The object that's carrying the value has to be partitioned. So this is the crucial point. Schiller observes that this act of dividing the chocolate isn't just some practical detail. It reveals something essential about this entire class of values. By their very structure, they create a conflict of interest. The more I have, the less you can have. Their enjoyment is, at its root, competitive. And in Schiller's words, they essentially divide people.
Now, contrast that with a spiritual value. Think about the beauty of a piece of music or grasping a mathematical proof. Is the beauty located in the front of the concert hall? Do we have to chop up Beethoven's Ninth so more people can hear it? Of course not. An infinite number of people can understand the Pythagorean theorem at the exact same moment without diminishing it one bit. Its value is non-extensive. It's indivisible. By their very essence, these spiritual values are structured to unite people in a common experience, not to drive them apart.
Okay, let's move on to our second exercise and see how this principle builds. We're going to look at an even greater contrast now, one that takes us from the middle of the hierarchy all the way to the very top, the difference between vital values and the values of the holy. So again, let's start with the experience itself. What is it actually like to feel that vital value of health? Unlike the sharp, localized feeling of sweetness, health is often something we don't even notice until it's gone.
Phenomenologically, the value of health is always given as relative to our transient biological life. Gadamer once called it that mysterious process of unnoticed well-being. Its entire meaning is wrapped up in the context of our functioning as a living organism. But what about the highest values, the values of the holy? When a person experiences what Scheller calls blissfulness or despair, these feeling states present themselves as utterly independent of our bodily well-being. A martyr can experience a state of profound blissfulness even while his body is in agony. The value is given as absolute, completely detached from the relative state of his biological life.
So, what have we actually been doing here?
In these two brief analyses, we haven't just passively accepted Shaler's hierarchy, we've actually started to perform it. We've started to see the criteria for the ranking emerge from the very structure of experience itself.
This is the method in practice. It's a 4-step process. We took an experience, tasting sweetness, feeling healthy. We described its structure. Is it localized? Is it relative? And this description then revealed the criteria for ranking them, criteria like divisibility or absoluteness. And from there, we can begin to see why certain values rank higher than others. It's a repeatable process, a toolkit for you to use in your own ethical investigations.
And this really brings us to Shaler's core idea. The order of values isn't something we just figure out with pure reason, like a math problem. It's something we feel. But, and this is the key, this feeling isn't arbitrary. It has its own kind of rigor, its own logic. It's what Shaler, borrowing a beautiful phrase from Pascal, calls the logic of the heart. It is an order that reveals itself to our emotional perception, but only when we pay close enough attention.
The whole point of this exercise is that this method is now yours to use. So I really encourage you to take other values, maybe compare justice versus utility, or beauty versus comfort, and apply the same phenomenological test. Ask yourselves, how are these values given to me in my own experience? What are their essential structures? And what does that reveal about their place in the order of our hearts?